meantime, we will now take you to Russia, as the country will hold military parades later on today to commemorate the Soviet Union's victory against Nazi Germany in World War II.
Meanwhile, in Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy submitted a bill that determines May 8th as World War II Victory Day.
On Sunday, Russia held the third and final rehearsal for this year's Victory Day military parade in Moscow, which is set to be held on May 9. 10,000 military personnel and 125 pieces of weapons and military equipment will be displayed on the Red Square during this year's parade. On the opposite, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has proposed a bill to establish 8 May as the Day of Remembrance and Victory over Nazism in World War II in Ukraine, breaking with Soviet tradition that celebrated the Victory Day on May 9.
Сьогодні я подав до Верховної Ради України законопроект, яким пропонується встановити 8 травня Днем пам'яті та перемоги над нацизмом у Другій світовій війні 1939-1945 років. Ми ніколи не забудемо внесок українського народу у перемогу над нацизмом. І нікому не дамо стерти роль українців у цій перемозі, наших людей, того покоління, про яке бережемо пам'ять майже в кожній нашій родині.
In response, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated that the procession will not be held across the country.
Что это решение непосредственно организаторов этого шествия, но с другой стороны, его вполне можно понять, когда мы имеем дело с государством, спонсором терроризма, де-факто, то здесь лучше принять меры предосторожности.
Many regions have cancelled their May 9 observances because of concerns that the events could be targets for Ukrainian attacks. The event is set to mark the 78th anniversary of the Soviet Union's victory in the Great Patriotic War of 1941 to 1945.
As just mentioned, by our coverage, that Victory Day is a very special occasion, especially for the Russians, correct? And especially this is such a signature for President Vladimir Putin to commemorate the triumph of the Soviet Union over Nazi Germany in World War II. Now, just because of right now the ongoing conflict with Ukraine, a lot of the officials, of the Russian officials, thinking of taking a step back on the celebrations, in which the recent spate of drone attacks against military infrastructure that targets cities like Sevastopol and Crimea, home port of Black Sea Fleet, as well as other attacks in the regions, and in the 2 drones in the Kremlin just a couple of days ago.
Correct.
Now, the cancellation of the nationwide Mortal Regiment March, when ordinary Russians take the streets to display pictures of their veteran forebears, is perhaps the most striking change. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the march was canceled as a precautionary measures against possible attacks. But though there's still going to be some celebration, there's still some expected to be the usual display of raw military might. Carefully choreographed soldiers marching amid weapons ranging from vintage tanks to intercontinental ballistic missiles. And of course, that we're going to wait for is Mr. Putin on the podium to address the nation, of course.
Indeed, and it comes at, as you mentioned, a turbulent time. There was that drone incident. In fact, one official at the Moscow mayor's office stated that there is a nervousness that I have not seen before, but Victory Day has to go ahead. There is no other option, and he himself spoke on the conditions of anonymity. And it's also odd, kind of ironic in a way, that they're celebrating Victory Day in a time when victory has kind of eluded them in this Ukraine conflict for quite a long time now. So in response to those drone attacks on the Kremlin, there's been authorities who have now banned the use of drones. They started jamming GPS signals. This has led to some chaos for people using taxi hailing apps or perhaps a map app as well. You end up showing like your car in the middle of a river. That's been happening.
What?
Yeah, there's been reports of that. Tellingly though, Putin still took the unusual step to discuss the preparations. for this Victory Day parade in a meeting with the Security Council. It was composed of Russia's top state officials, heads of defense, security agencies. But even before the drone attacks happened, there were already some unease with among the Russian leadership over any of these celebrations, just amidst fears of any possible
Attacks, yeah.
because you would be leaving yourself quite vulnerable at that time as well. At least 6 Russian regions has scrapped the celebrations this year, with one region 400 miles from the border being the latest to cancel, quite close there, and they'd be especially vulnerable.
And you don't want to gather a lot of people, right? In this
Exactly.
president time.
And like celebrate instead of being
Right.
on the defense,
Yes.
if you will.
Yeah.